Does hard work actually work when you're an entrepreneur? That's the multi-seven-figure question. And it might sound like a dumb question as well, because didn't the hustle culture already answer that for us? As long as you're the hardest worker in the room, as long as you join a 5 a.m. club, as long as you join Team No Sleep, and as long as you fill your bloodstream with caffeine and motivational YouTube videos, you eventually be successful. And if you somehow aren't successful, you can always brag on social media about how you work 100 or 120 hours per week and get some likes and get some comments cheering you on until you are one day successful. But if you really examine the matter, then you'll begin to question, hey, is working hard the linchpin that separates entrepreneurs who are insanely successful and entrepreneurs who are still struggling to make it? And in order for me to answer this question, I'm going to use myself as an example and go all the way back to when I was a high school kid 15 years ago. Growing up, I wasn't even aware that entrepreneur was an option to me. They can one day grow up and start their own business and be your own boss. Back then, I had one job: to work as hard as possible and get the best scores possible. After school, most days, I did not go back home. I spent another 2 to 3 hours in the tutoring center, getting more studies in, signing up to every single extracurricular activity that I can possibly sign up on, and then go back home to have dinner, and then spend another 2 to 3 hours on schoolwork and projects. And if I were to be a rebel, instead of going to sleep, I would trade 1 or 2 hours of sleep to play a round or two of League of Legends and then go to bed. And back then, I was always sleep deprived, chronically exhausted, and wasn't really performing at my top shape. But it worked out. Eventually, I got grades that are high enough for me to go down one of the three most famous pathways that an Asian kid can ever go down on, which is to either be a doctor, lawyer, or a failure. So I graduated high school and flew halfway across the world from Hong Kong to London to study veterinary medicine. And by then, I thought, hey, now that I'm away from my parents, now that nobody's here to watch over me, I can finally be free. But that didn't happen. I ended up working as hard as I can so that I can get the highest grades I can possibly get. Because there's a part of me that's so driven by fear that I feel like if I don't work as hard as I can, then I might fail. Or if I don't stay busy and if I don't hustle max out, then I will be undermining my potential and I will be letting people down. And I was doing okay during vet school. I wasn't the best student, but I was also not the worst. But halfway through my studies, when I was in my clinical years, I started reading books like Rich Dad Poor Dad, 4 Hour Work Week, and Think and Grow Rich. And that opened my mind up to opportunities that felt otherworldly back then, because I realized that there's this thing called entrepreneurship that allow people to earn 10 times, even 100 times more than any average doctor, lawyer, or vet surgeon can ever earn. And since back then, scores and income was my only metric to success, I just pounced on this concept of entrepreneurship and invested all of my scholarship money into an ecom business. I bought a few courses that promised me that I would be making six figures or multiple six figures whilst working around 2 or 3 hours per day and living the 4 hour work week. And I was so excited to finally find my path towards the freedom and a lifestyle that I wanted to have. But 12 months down the line, rather than earning multiple six figures whilst working 2 or 3 hours per day, I ended up being so burnt out that I almost killed myself. I was balancing my time between work placements, studies, and running a business that I was sleep deprived and had no time for anything else apart from eating quick meals, working, studying, and sleeping 4 to 6 hours per day. And it got on so bad that one day when I was driving back from home from an interview, my brother just gave out and I dozed up on a wheel on the M25 whilst going 70 to 80 miles per hour on a highway. Luckily, nobody got hurt. I didn't hit anything. I didn't get injured. I didn't kill myself. My car simply rolled to the side of the road, and I woke up completely in shock and drenched in cold sweat. Because back then, I knew I screwed up, and during my pursuit towards freedom and success, I almost lost everything. And that was a wake-up call that drove me to learn everything under the sun around how to maximize my time. I learned productivity systems, productivity hacks. I learned how to do automations, systems, and I even learned how to hire people and create operational leverage. And eventually, my business grew, and I was able to reach a point where I was able to replace my full-time income and go into full-time entrepreneurship. And by then, I thought, now that I don't have a boss, now that I'm my own boss, now that I can set my own schedules, I can finally be free. But turns out, that didn't happen. Despite having a team, despite learning everything that's going to do with productivity and systems, and despite being a semi-pro on automations followed by AI, I still found myself trapped on a hamster wheel, hustling and working as hard as I can. Because there's a part of me that feels that in order for me to feel successful, in order for me to satisfy my ambitions, in order for me to grow and make progress, I must work as hard as I can. And whenever there's an empty slot in my schedule, that is an opportunity for me to get more stuff done. I simply grind it away and hustle away because that was what I thought was normal. But after staying stuck in a revenue plateau for 2 to 3 years, I began to feel very, very abnormal. I started having anxiety attacks. My restlessness and panic attacks that I experienced from vet school resurfaced. And I just felt like something had to change. So eventually, I took the leap and started investing into a coach that specializes in mental reprogramming and mindset. And I also went down a rabbit hole studying subjects like upper limit problems, transformational psychology, and even trauma. And turns out that my constant busyness, my constant overwhelm, and my chronic fatigue has got less or nothing to do with my skill sets, my level of accomplishment, the size of my bank account, the size of my team, or the size of my business. And it's got all to do with my belief that in order for me to feel loved, in order for me to feel any sense of worth or deservedness towards success, I must work myself to the bone. And the busier I am, the more likely I am to succeed, which obviously is not true. But it is that addiction to business that trapped me in a hamster wheel. Whether it be when I was a secondary school kid, a veterinary surgeon, or a veterinary surgeon building an e-com business, or a full-time entrepreneur. It is that same pattern that I failed to break out of that was causing me to feel stuck. And it doesn't really matter how much I earned, how highly accomplished I am, or what scores I have on the report card or on a balance sheet or on the performance reports. Until I break through that pattern, I will still be operating out of alignment. I'll be operating from a place of fear, shame, and guilt rather than a place of abundance. And it's only after doing a lot of mental work and unraveling a lot of trauma and re-scripting my mental programming that I finally, only recently accepted this concept of stillness. And it was only recently that I felt okay with waking up to an empty schedule where I can just ponder, putter, think, read, take it easy, and not jump straight into the chaos of my business. And what came out of the other side was something that I would never have expected. For the first time in my entrepreneurial journey, I finally experienced what it's like to be in flow and to be tapping into my intuition. Opportunities started just coming to me. Problems that I was stuck with for years simply got dissolved by a solution that just came out of nowhere. And what's even more surprising is that the very following month of me practicing stillness, I completely broke my previous revenue record. Back then, my business was stuck at around the 30 to 40,000 per month mark, and I was stuck there for almost 3 years. And that month, I completely shattered that revenue record and generated 52,000 in cash collected. And towards the end of that quarter, where I only worked 10 weeks and took the remaining 3 weeks off because that was Q4 2024, my business broke its previous quarterly revenue record by a full 46%. And I was just reflecting upon that the other day, and I still have yet to wrap my head around what actually happened. The only thing that I can say for sure is that hard work is not the linchpin that separates entrepreneurs who are successful and entrepreneurs who are quote unquote still trying to make it. And as I'm filming this video, even after a good few months of this happening, I'm still trying to make sense of what has actually happened. Because throughout that stretch, I didn't feel any mental or emotional exertion. I was simply flowing like water. I was simply in flow. Every single challenge that came my way, I circumvented it. Every single problem that came my way, I somehow knew how to solve it. And whatever I was looking for somehow manifested. And whatever I was looking for, whether it be a connection, an opportunity, or a sale, they just came to me in ways that I would have never expected them to come from. Now, this might all sound woo-woo, but as I dug deeper and as I worked with my coach on this matter, here's one thing that I realized. Abundance and wealth is not something that you achieve through hustle and hard work. It is something that you embody. And unless you're able to allow yourself to deserve that level of abundance and wealth, no amount of hard work and hustle will allow you to earn and keep that level of wealth and abundance. So with that being said, going full circle on the question that sparked this video, does hard work actually work? Well, it depends. In my opinion, based off my experience, hard work will only work when you are operating in alignment with your higher self. And if your higher self thinks that success's only metric is the number in your bank account or the size of your business, and you're actually okay with hustling 100 hours per week because that's what you live for, then by all means, hustling, max out, and working those 100-hour work weeks will absolutely allow you to achieve or experience the success that you want to achieve. But at the same time, if that's not your goal, and your goal is to work hard, build a business, and have the business be the vehicle that allows you to experience the time freedom and the autonomy that you want and desire, but at the same time, you find yourself earning more, and the more you earn, the less time you have, and you're simply trapped in a place where you're accomplishing more and more and more, you're earning high scores on the report card, but at the same time, you can't see a light at the end of the tunnel where you can actually experience the freedom and autonomy that you actually want, then your subconscious will kick in and protect yourself by showing up as an upper limit problem.
Because when you are exerting the maximum amount of energy that ever exerts, but still find yourself venturing further and further and further away from a goal of experiencing freedom, then you will not feel momentum. You will feel all alignment. And that's exactly what trapped me in a plateau for almost 3 years with my business. And at the end of the day, your success and your progress as an entrepreneur should never, ever be dependent on the number of hours or the amount of work you're doing as an individual. Because if the only way that your business can double itself is for you to double your work hours, then all you will do is to grow linearly and eventually beat a plateau. And if you try to push past that plateau, you'll simply burn out and experience diminishing returns. Instead, what you want to do here is to practice stillness and create space whatever you can, whether it be through elimination, simplification, delegation, automation, or simply learning how to be still and be comfortable with an empty schedule. Because it is through the empty space that you welcome the opportunities and welcome the possibilities for transformations and opportunities to come to you. And that is when you can create leverage through momentum, energy, and intuition as well, and tap into the power of addition by subtraction. And that ultimately is what will lead you to shift from growth linearly to growth exponentially, to a point where hard work is simply a conduit for success, so that eventually that bond between your work hours and the commission path will get unshackled, both on paper as well as from an emotional standpoint. So that's all I gotta say. If you have a similar experience around hard work, burnout, and feel like you're being intoxicated by the hustle culture as an entrepreneur or as a high achiever, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you have any questions around this matter, feel free to shoot a message or send me your own comments. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you enjoyed it, hit subscribe.